You're talking about bottom up?
I'm talking about basically a problem solving
American way
methodology.
is completely top down everything.
Right. Now, I'm
Japanese is main component, and so they try to dig in detail each of those, then try to lead into the conclusion.
Right.
American people never do that.
No, they basically make a simplification of the.
The other way of saying is always thinking about Japanese. They don't have strategy. They always consider about tactics. They try to grasp the general overview. They cannot do that.
Right. It's very difficult because they don't make it. They do not try to simplify it.
Do you know why? Okay, after World War II, the War Guilty Information Program, they planned for Japanese people to influence, change their mind. At that time, they implemented the Total Quality Program. And the Total Quality Program is dig in detail.
Right.
They do not get the overview.
Right. So that's how you create incremental change, for example.
This is risky. You don't get dirty.
Right.
Do you need paper?
I have.
But anyway, this background, historical background they had. So Japanese people, they don't think strategic approach. They always thinking about tactics. That's the reason that they cannot get profit.
Right.
And they satisfy the bottom line.
But that's actually also the reason why they can make excellent products. Not much different, but much better than competitors from the States.
Tissue there. Oh, I think.
Thank you.
Tissue there. Right, so this kind of thing says Japanese cannot make a strategical approach. They always consider tactics. So they cannot think about 10 years plan. They always 3 years.
And also, basically, they do not very often come up with fundamental new products, fundamentally innovative products. They come up with existing products and a much better version of that, but not with fundamentally, conceptually new ideas that will put the world upside down.
That's right.
So that is the. If you put all these things together, conservatism, incrementalism, conformism, and you put that against modeling, logic, individualism, eccentricity, so basically the acceptance of people to be different, to be.
Okay, we proceed on the next one. What do you mean? What do you mean managers and influencers?
So, managers are people who basically can rule top down. Managers who are at the head of a company and say, okay, we're going this direction. And they can control their organization. They can direct. They can make sure that things happen. Influencers is more of an attitude when there is not a clear leader. There are more factions that are trying to influence, and that you need to kind of get along with as a senior manager in order to maintain your position. So there is not a clear leader, not a clear manager who is actually saying you need to go that way, you need to go that way, you need to go that way. There are more managers or leaders who...
You're talking about followership?
Yeah, followership, but also the way that managers run their organization by basically always looking for buy-in from left, from right, and then saying yes. So it is more of a bottom-up management in the Japanese case, and more of a bottom-down management in case of the Western society. And I think Kimoto-san actually used it, asked about this in the past. He was very interested in colonialism and how come Western countries were able to dominate so many colonies at the same time, and what that means, the parallel of management style. That was of interest, and I think that there is a point to that. I think there is that throughout history we are more inclined towards top-down management and say, okay, it needs to go this. Now, today's organizations in Europe are much less vertically organized than in the past. So the organizations are very horizontal. But make no mistake, there is always still the CEO who makes the final decisions. So if you are a salesperson in Europe, you're always taught to go directly to the decision maker. And the decision maker is the guy at the top. So that's the president or whoever can make that decision. And if he or she says, yes, we're going to do that, then it will happen. In Japan, going directly to the top is usually not going to be successful because you will find resistance somewhere down the line. I made that mistake just recently, just like what I told you. I went to the top, I talked to the top, I talked to the number two, and to my surprise, it didn't materialize because the layer below that said no. And I should have been smarter and say, okay, no. I should have get buy-in from the layer below and then go to the top. That was my mistake.
We should communicate with several
right.
position people,
right?
Not only top people.
Right.
That's right.
But in Western society, there is no doubt I would have gotten what I wanted.
Yeah. Yes. But influencer, what this mean again?
So basically, it means that managers, top-down influencers, are the groups and factions below that basically support the manager. The manager is more or less carried, and the people below
you mean manager, top people?
Yeah. So basically, a manager is not necessarily a leader who manages top-down. He is basically supported by different factions, groups and they have their influence on that manager, and they can nod and say, okay, it's
it means manager means management.
Right, management, yeah.
Okay, I understand. Management, right?
Right.
That's right.
Right. So there are not a lot of managers in Japan who are really top down and say, okay, this is the way we go, like Steve Jobs did, for example.
We don't do that.
We don't do that, exactly. We kind of create a consensus. We create a common understanding. We have pre-meetings. We try to influence the decision makers, and there's a lot of power underneath general management. A lot of power. That's different from Western the Western way of managing organizations.
That's right. Okay, let's move on.
Impatience versus patience. Also taught in Confucianism, I think it's an integral part of Japanese society. You need to be patient. Patience is rewarded. You put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, but if you just keep going and you're being patient, then ultimately your reward will come, your promotion will come.
By the way, I have a question for you. Why Japanese be taught be patient?